You have to assume in this world that America is spying all over China and vice versa, although the US has firmly denied Chinese allegations that the US have balloons of their own currently flying over China. It's all getting very tit for tat.
The US military say they've recovered sensors from a suspected Chinese spy balloon from the Atlantic Ocean, which was shot down on the 4th of February. But we still don't know what the other three objects are. Sarah Baxter is the director of the Mary Colvin Center for International Reporting in New York.
It's all such a big hot mess over here because nobody has a clue what they are. So, it's sort of gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, really. Are they Chinese, instruments of spying? In which case, of course, bringing them down, is going to yield lots of valuable information, one hopes. Or are they sort of just untethered, unidentified flying objects of the non-extraterrestrial kind that might have sort of floated out into hyperspace on the sort of amateur basis? Um, or indeed, are they UFOs? But of course, the White House spokeswoman who said that she thoroughly enjoyed E.T., it was a favourite film of hers, did pour cold water on that suggestion.
Isn't it a bit embarrassing that with all its military and scientific prowess, the US isn't able to pronounce more firmly on what these objects are?
It's totally embarrassing. I mean, first of all, the Biden administration was caught napping as an actual Chinese balloon drifted across the continental United States. And then all sorts of weird, now we're on to the fourth shooting down of the missile, of these objects. It took two Sidewinder missiles costing about $400,000 each to bring down one of these balloons over, or non-balloons, we really don't know what they are, over Lake Huron, and others have been taking a pop at areas, total wastelands, the frozen wastes of the Yukon over Alaska and everything. And America's looking a little bit foolish. Now, I don't say that they won't end up, learning valuable information. It all could come out well, but it's just been a really painful and awkward couple of weeks for the Pentagon and for Biden, just because they've been left looking like they're caught napping.
It's fascinating. So what's the political fallout of this? Is this being sort of squarely blamed on the Biden administration, them being slow on the uptake? Or is there still speculation that these types of objects could have been entering American airspace earlier, for example, under the Trump administration, or even before that?
Well, because they haven't been identified before, principally it appears because nobody was actually looking for them, it's safe to assume that there were objects like this floating around during the Trump administration, and indeed, the Biden people have said as much. So it's not quite as awkward for Joe Biden as it was last week, when everybody could see with their own eyes that something weird was happening in the skies, that giant sort of dirigible balloon. I think this week it's been more of a bit of a laughing stock all round. I mean, the Pentagon's taking a bit of a hit. Last week it was all sort of rah, rah, rah. Our boys in, shot, Top Gun brought down the Chinese balloon. This week it's a bit more, well, why doesn't the Pentagon know more about them? And what are they trying to hide? Because, of course, they might not be trying to hide anything. They might genuinely know nothing. But the way the Pentagon speaks is almost calculated to drive people mad with speculation. We do not confirm or deny anything. We do not, they've let these UFO rumors rip just because they wouldn't say what they were, and said we're not ruling out anything.
You're right, they've certainly set 1,000 hairs running. We know that one of the objects is believed to have been a Chinese spy balloon. So how is that playing out in terms of the relations between China and the US? Will there be any sort of retaliation from Washington?
Well, I think at the moment Washington is focusing on just grabbing as much information as they can from the downed balloon at the bottom of the ocean. But tensions were already pretty high, particularly over Taiwan, and this really hasn't helped matters. And now the Taiwanese are sort of probing their own sort of air defenses and looking up into the sky to wondering what the Chinese are doing up there. I think You have to assume in this world that America is spying all over China and vice versa, although the US has firmly denied Chinese allegations that the US have balloons of their own currently flying over China. It's all getting very tit for tat. I think the diplomats are going to try and cool this one down while the Pentagon tries to get to the bottom of what these literal UFOs are.
And just finally, Sarah, are there US citizens now who are taking to their gardens, to the outback to try and spot any other balloons floating over? How are people sort of responding to this at a grassroots level?
Oh, absolutely. People have really, people with telescopes have got their eyes trained on the sky, because you have to remember that it's a safe bet that if ordinary citizens hadn't said, "What the hell is that up in the sky over Montana?" The Pentagon would have kept all reports of this Chinese balloon, the first big one, quiet. They weren't really volunteering any information and didn't want to until people could see with their own eyes what was going on. Now, these other sightings have been of much smaller objects, said to be about the size of a car, cylindrical, and, nobody's quite, with little dangling stringy bits and things, nobody's quite too sure what exactly they are. But certainly everybody in America is trying to get, well, not everybody, I don't have a telescope, but certainly plenty of people in America are trying to get a good look for themselves and see if they could be the first to announce to the world what they've discovered.
Well, that was Sarah Baxter there, the director of the Mary Colvin Centre for International Reporting in New York. And I was fascinated, Luke, that she said it cost $400,000 for the missiles to shoot down these objects. I didn't realise it was quite so expensive.
And actually, these are balloons at the end of the day. So you'd think
Yes.
some sort of plucky gentleman in South Carolina with his shotgun might be able to do the trick. Although actually, some of them are, well, one of them in particular was the size of 3 double-decker buses. So I don't know, maybe it'd take a few more shots.
Well, you also
down it.
wonder slightly, don't you, about the Pentagon's equipment, given that radar couldn't identify it, given it was so big. Sounds to me a little bit bizarre as well.
Lots of questions, and we'll get to more of them a little bit later on. We'll hear from a former UK ambassador to the US, and we'll also get the view of the